It's pretty wild to think that the same kind of mental training the CIA uses for its spies, well, that it could actually give you an edge in hitting your own targets. Like, forget the trench coats for a second, right?
Exactly. It's really about the deep psychology of what makes people succeed. That's what we're digging into.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive inspired by this Everyday Spy podcast episode looking at the psychology of winning.
And how it really goes way beyond just, spy stuff.
So our mission today, we want to pull out the really useful bits from that source. What gets us going? How do you bounce back when things go wrong? And this idea of purpose, how crucial that is.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite a range we're covering. The source touches on brain chemistry, handling failure. Even surprisingly, Moby Dick comes into it.
Huh. Yeah, that was unexpected. All right, let's dive in.
Okay, so first up, this really interesting CIA idea. Sometimes the chase is actually more rewarding, like chemically speaking, than getting the thing you're chasing.
Right. That jumped out at me, too. They talked about how working towards a goal gives you these little dopamine hits, the brain's reward chemical.
Yeah, every time you make progress.
But then, bam, a setback happens and you get hit with cortisol, stress hormone.
So you've got this up and down, this chemical roller coaster almost.
Yeah, a loop.
And what's fascinating and kind of scary is how that dynamic can be used. The source mentioned, like manipulative relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Or tough work situations. Places where you get just enough positive reinforcement, just enough hope, mixed with the bad stuff,
Uh-huh.
that it keeps you stuck, chasing that next little dopamine fix.
Right, instead of just, getting out. It makes you wonder why we stick around in bad spots sometimes, always hoping for that next little win.
And for you listening, if you've ever felt that initial buzz for a goal just fizzle out, this chemical dance might be why. It's often those small steps forward that keep us hooked.
Okay, but what about the other side? When you keep trying and just failing.
Yeah. Yeah, the source calls that fatalism or defeatism. It's basically when failure after failure drills this belief into your head that you just can't.
That little voice saying, nope, tried it, doesn't work, why bother?
Exactly. And chemically, if you're not getting those dopamine rewards for making progress, all you're left with is the cortisol, the stress.
So it becomes this negative feedback loop. Your brain is basically telling you, don't even try, it's just going to hurt. Like a survival thing almost.
Yeah, it discourages effort. So how do you break that?
Well, the source offered a really practical idea. Always be training for something.
Right. Not just general get fit or do better. Something specific, tangible.
Like the example they used training for a half Ironman. Suddenly, eating those eggs every morning or skipping dessert. It has a reason, a clear why. It's not just vaguely healthy, it's getting you closer to that finish line.
It totally cuts through that what's the point feeling you can get with the daily grind. Having that specific target, whatever it is, job promotion, personal project, race, it gives your daily actions meaning. It shores up those good habits because they serve something bigger.
It brings structure, makes it relevant, keeps you going.
And this focus on the future, on a goal. It connects to something else they brought up, faith.
Yeah, but not necessarily like religious faith in the way people usually mean it. More like...
Well, like the definition. The substance of things hoped for. The evidence of things not seen.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
They framed it as the belief, the conviction that the work you put in today will actually lead to results tomorrow or, down the line.
So it's active, not just wishing.
Exactly. It's doing the workout today with the confidence it'll pay off, even if you can't see the final result yet.
Okay, now this is where it got really cool, the biology bit.
Oh, the myokines, yeah. Specifically, irisin.
Which your muscles release when you exercise. And get this. Researchers apparently call it the hope molecule.
Huh.
Seriously. Yeah, because it's linked to better mood, feeling more hopeful. So, like, taking action literally makes you feel more optimistic on a chemical level.
Wow. A biochemical basis for hope. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Totally.
They even mentioned research linking irisin to fighting amyloid plaques, the stuff linked to Alzheimer's.
Right. So a real physical benefit from the very act that also fosters hope. It shows how tightly connected it all is mind-body action.
But then they flipped it, looked at the downside of hope.
Oh yeah, the danger zone. Perpetual hope, but never actually getting there.
The CIA angle again. Apparently, it's a known technique for handling assets or sources. Keep them hoping, keep them engaged with the promise of something.
But never let them quite achieve it. Keep them on the hook.
Yeah. The example of the musician was perfect. The guy with the killer riff.
Ah, yeah. Everyone tells him it's amazing.
So he gets his dopamine hit from the praise, from the potential.
But he never finishes the actual song, never does the hard work of completion.
And you see that pattern in really damaging situations, right? Like those manipulative relationships we mentioned, or addiction.
Definitely. There's always that carrot being dangled, just enough hope to keep you locked in the cycle, even if there's no real progress.
It really highlights how our own reward systems can be, well, hijacked.
Which really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Where might I be stuck in a hope loop without taking the real steps needed to finish?
Mm-hmm. And that leads directly to the idea of agency.
Right. That sense that you're actually in the driver's seat of your own life, making things happen, not just reacting.
And they pointed out health and fitness are such great places to build that feeling because the actions are concrete.
Totally. Choosing what you eat, deciding to go for that walk, even if it's short. These are small things, but you are choosing them.
It gives you that tangible sense of control.
It's the opposite of just like pinning your hopes on some miracle supplement, the hopium they talked about.
Yeah, waiting for an easy fix instead of taking those consistent practical steps. Agency is built through action.
And they made it personal too, which I appreciated. You shared that story about the trampoline.
Oh, right. Yeah, choosing to jump with the kids, even though, it kind of hurts these days.
Because the connection, the experience, that was the bigger goal. It was worth the trade-off, a conscious choice.
Exactly. Balancing priorities intentionally.
And I talked about my own stuff, trying to be a better husband.
Yeah.
Even when you've achieved things elsewhere, relationships, they're ongoing work, aren't they?
Always. It's a process.
Yeah, and you don't always get, like, instant positive feedback. I mentioned how my wife, initially wasn't thrilled with my morning enthusiasm.
Yes. Learning what the other person actually needs, not just what you think they need. That constant adaptation.
Exactly. It just shows growth isn't always linear. Even where you feel competent, there's always more learning, more adapting.
So then, Moby Dick, that was a turn.
Yeah, well, it tied in. I mentioned how I had to read it as a kid, hated it, got nothing from it, then read it years later, and this one passage from the preacher's sermon about Jonah just floored me.
The line about God's hands.
Yeah. Shipmates, God has laid but one hand upon you, two on me. Both of his hands are upon me. And the preacher wishing he could trade places.
Okay. And your take was?
Well, you had a really interesting theological perspective on it, connecting Jonah to Jesus and courage through suffering.
Walking through it as the sign.
But for me, it also felt like it was about the sheer weight of truth, how heavy it can feel, and how sometimes we desperately want to avoid carrying it.
Avoidance. In relationships, work, looking honestly at ourselves.
Exactly. Maybe that's why we give up on goals sometimes, facing the unvarnished truth of what it takes, the sacrifices, the potential for failure. It's heavy. It's easier to turn away.
So art, like literature, can hold up this mirror, offer these really deep insights into being human, and we can all pull different meanings from it.
Yeah. And you made the point, which is crucial, that ultimately the truth of something, especially in personal growth, often comes down to, does it work? Can you act on it? Does it produce results?
Right. The practical application validates it, in a sense.
So wrapping this up, quite a journey we took there.
Yeah, from brain chemistry
to Moby Dick. We hit on the chemical drives behind motivation, those dopamine highs and cortisol lows.
The dangers of getting stuck, either in defeatism or in that kind of endless, unproductive hope.
The absolute power of having a clear purpose, that training for something idea, and building your sense of agency through action.
And then grappling with the complexity of truth and why sometimes avoiding it feels easier, but ultimately holds us back.
And hopefully for you listening, exploring these ideas gives you a bit of a shortcut maybe to being better informed about your own drives and how to reach your goals.
Understanding the why behind the what.
So here's a final thought to maybe chew on. Is there one area in your life right now where you suspect you might be dodging a difficult truth? Just consider it and then think, what's one small step, one little action driven by agency that you could take today to face it? Might be interesting to see what happens.
It just might. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.